Okay, testing 1 2 1 2. Let me know you can hear me, please. We'll get started. Hi, Chantal. I literally just got back this second. I apologize. I'm a tiny bit late. Let me just get my bearings here. Okay. Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Pro Trade Room Plus. We are here for revised University of Michigan consumer sentiment. My name is Lee Goldstein, Trading Director for 10-Minute Trades. Please remember all the trades we discuss for educational purposes. So let's get started. I want to welcome everyone on YouTube. Thank you for joining us with our stream. The markets are opening right now. So we got a few minutes to just relax, let the markets open. And we'll make a decision on what we're going to do with University of Michigan. I remember yesterday that there is a lot of anxiousness awaiting Mr. Powell. Okay. Everybody can hear me okay? And you can see okay? Let me know. Let me know that you're out there and you can see and hear me. Fine. Sander, I see you've answered. Thank you. Chantal, you always answer if you can. Is Sander the only person here besides Chantal? Let's put our news up. I guess it's just me, Sander, and Chantal this morning. Okay. This is the news that we're looking at. Powell's due about 10:05. So we should get our trade in. That's what it really looks like, that we should get our trade in. University of Michigan is a consumer confidence report, and it's a consumer sentiment report. I'm also looking at the euro, and we have a hi, Alan. Okay, Fred. Good morning, Arthur. Yeah, good. Okay. If you're busy, that's fine. That's fine. Fred, I hope you made some money trading the open. You don't have to answer me if you're busy. It's no problem. Just busting on you. Fred, I find it fascinating that you're still trading the opens. You got to tell me what you're doing. You always have great methods. That's the truth. So let's talk about University of Michigan. We have a spike sheet and we have a trap trade. Hey, Fred, that would be awesome. That would be awesome. If you do that, I would thank you very much for that. Because I'm always interested in experimenting with the opens. I still sometimes trade the gold open. That's my favorite open at the moment. When I'm around and and I just feel like putting the time in. Sometimes I just like, if we don't have an early trade room, I don't look at the markets early. I really like trading on a schedule. I really trade on a schedule. That's the truth. All right. So let's take a look. Roz, I was a little bit late myself. 2 minutes, really. But I was out. I had to drive my son somewhere. I didn't think I would get back. I knew when I told him I'd do it that I shouldn't have told him I would do it. But, you know, family comes first. That's the truth. Family first. So here's what I got going. And I'm going to do 15 and 23, I think. 15 and 23 with a stop of 15. Here's what we did last month. You know, Roz, I swear, I do not feel stressed at all. We've been doing this for so long, so many times, that I could, honestly, I prepared last night, so I'm ready for the trade. I have all my videos ready. I could get here like 10 seconds before I'm scheduled to start, and I'm ready. I'm not stressed, and it's fine, honest. But I prepared last night because I knew I might be late. So let's look at July. We had the trap trade. I wanted to take a peek at what our exact setup was. Now we have a lot of good trades coming up. Even though it's the holiday, I do want to give everyone a heads up. There are a lot of good trades coming up. I do have to say that I could not follow my own lessons. I couldn't follow my own teaching this week. This was the worst psychological week I've ever had, ever, because of NVIDIA. 30 seconds before the trade, I was going to increase the bracket. Had I increased the bracket, it would have made for a safe trade. It would have been maybe an $800 trade. And instead, it literally ruined the whole week for me. And I've been in the corner since that NVIDIA trade. I can't escape the fact that I missed how big of a move it was going to be. And I should have realized that the brackets on NVIDIA should be as big, almost as big as Amazon. I just am so frustrated that I blew it. I can't live with myself. That's the truth. It's bothering me so much. Literally 5 ticks. So it looks like we used 18 and 22 in July, which is perfectly safe. Langford, I do not agree. It wasn't the time. No, it was the bracket. It was absolutely the bracket size. Honest, it wasn't the time. There was a little bit of a blip in the NQ, but had the bracket been able to tolerate that blip, then we would have been fine. And the bracket of 25 was just way too small. 40 tick bracket, and then you don't have to worry about time, Langford, and that's the key. That's the key, not to have to worry about the time, because they're not always reliable. So usually I agree with you. On this case, I don't. I think it wasn't the time, it was the bracket. It was the bracket. Alex, I cannot tell you how upset I am about that trade. Honest. It was the most upsetting trade, I think, in my whole history of being here, because it was so easy to fix. The only thing I can say is this, and then we'll let it go. We have to let it go. When we were trading earnings years ago, one of our members, who is a really good person, someone I still talk to, but he's not in the room anymore, he suggested that our brackets were just too darn small. But more importantly, what he suggested was our stops were too darn small. And once we did extra research, realizing that our stops were too darn small, we started making so much more money on earnings than we ever lost. And it's been that way ever since. Occasionally, you're going to have that bad earnings trade, but earnings have been better and better as the years have gone on. So all I could say is this: if we don't have 4 profitable NVIDIAs in a row that are big winners, it would surprise me. In other words, I'll never make that mistake again. And our last NVIDIA was a $700 winner. So I wish it was a weekly trade. That's the only thing I could say. I wish it was weekly, at least monthly, Anyway, let's concentrate on what's at hand. I think we have a trap trade. This is not a breakout. GC seems to be the best that we have. It's a pretty good setup. The spike sheet should be safe with our setup. And what I'm going to do on the trap, it's a 10 o'clock event, and we've got tiers of 15 and 22. 10 o'clock event. The stop is 15. Now, 10 o'clock event, label it gold. And I'm trading it. This is our last event of the week. I'm watching the euro. The euro, we've definitely been noticing some very, very interesting behavior from the euro. And we're probably going to be adding more euro setups because it's working. And we're looking at the yen as well. Let's check our time sync. Checking the time sync. Time is, my computer's in sync. Gold's been trending a lot this week. In other words, when we come into the rooms, gold seems to want to be trending. I'm just putting it in points. Net change display. Gold on points. So when we look at gold, just out of curiosity on that 30-minute chart, you look at it last night when the market closed, gold went down overnight. Early morning, it pushed up to make a new high. Then it went back down to the low. It's very volatile. Right now, it's near the low. We've got some levels that we certainly might want to be aware of. I prefer 5 on this, Alex. I'm going to go with 5. Okay. The prep, all that means, it's important. It means when the orders go on the chart. I think 5 is fine. So one more time on the setup. There's no earnings left, really. Langford, I don't know if you had any notes on Best Buy, if Best Buy moved any market for their earnings. It's an interesting company, certainly, but my gut feeling is they're not really going to move markets. 15 tick stop, tier 15 and 22, 10 o'clock event, 5-second prep. If you just trade the outer tier ROS, I never have a problem with just trading the outer tier. Then it'll create only one target by definition. So if you trade one tier, there will only be one target. That's what will happen. And again, thanks for everybody watching on YouTube, our free stream. If you hit the like button, we'd really appreciate it. Let's take a look at June. So in June, we had a bigger trap. We also were testing an ES trap as well. Langford, if you notice any earnings that are coming up that you think I should pay attention to, absolutely give me a heads up. You know that I'll do some extra looking. I didn't see anything really except maybe Qualcomm that got my interest. So it filled one tier back in June, one tier. And it looked like a decent reversal. If you look at our spike sheet, okay, the biggest spike since last July is 30 ticks, okay? The biggest spike since last July is 30 ticks. So our zone of safety is 22 and 15. 22 on our outer tier, 15 on our stop. That's 37 ticks. It should be perfectly safe. Okay. Now, sometimes with a trap trade, depending where the orders fall, you know, you can put your orders to fill above the PP and below the low if you want to. You can manipulate a trap trade where it fills if you want to. What's the worst that happens if you manipulate your orders too much? You won't get filled, and it's not the end of the world if you don't get filled. That's really important to remember, that, you know, modifying a trade in a way that you think is going to make it safer, and if it creates a situation where you don't get filled, then you look at what happened, you analyze it, but you're never going to go crying in a corner because you didn't get filled. You know, maybe you over manipulated the trade. It's possible, but that's what trading's all about. There can often be discretion. There can often be discretion. It's not etched in stone. Certain setups, I would argue against changing them around. Like if you're going to tell me you're going to change the bracket on Amazon, I would tread very carefully. And the time, I'd tread real carefully, because our research says we think we have it pretty good. But trap trades, they lend themselves towards modification. And if you go and watch the videos, and if you understand the old version of the trap trade with the adjust button. And those videos are on our website, the new website. They're free. You can watch them. It'll teach you some extra nuances about the trap trade. Everybody should do it. Yes, Frank, no problem. So Frank, the settings I'm using, I've got one position for each tier. We have a 15 stop. Time of the event is 10 o'clock, and our tiers are 15 and 22. Chantal, you want to weigh in on anything? 5-second prep. And then I thought maybe we'd hang around. If people want to hang around for 15 or 20 minutes, I wanted to see if Powell starts talking on time. And if he does, I'd show you how you could use the software to just set up a random discretionary trade. So let's see what happens on the trade. But I'd be willing to stick around and see if Powell talks. So listen, I'm going to increase my second bracket to 24. And especially because Chantal is mentioning the number 24. That was in one of our videos. So I'm going to go with that little bit extra. But I'm going to go to 16 on my inner tier. I'd rather get filled. I'm a little bit more aggressive on that inner tier. But the 24 gives us a little bit more safety, and it is a number that came up in other setups for this trade. So anybody, if you want to increase that outer tier up, Roz, make your outer tier 24 if you want to. Everybody has enough time to do it. Disable your trade. So I'm doing 16 and 24. 10 o'clock event, 5-second prep. Okay, it's not a radical change. It's not a radical change. And we got to be aware of the low. I don't want we want our tiers preferably below the low, don't we, Chantal? Really? So in other words, one manipulation that might make sense is if your tiers are right above the low, you might want to move them below. You might not have time, okay? There might not be time. So Powell's just doing a text release, no Q&A. So probably we'll just finish with the trade. I thought he was doing a big Q&A and it was going to be a whole big deal, but it's not. So I'll save that for another time. But I'm looking for a time where I'll actually schedule just a random software lesson in the room. Sandra, you could just do tier 1. In other words, the software defaults. If you're trading just one tier, you don't have to tell it tier 2. You just do tier 1. And as long as your position is 0 on the other tier, it'll only do one tier. And it's always going to be the outer tier, right? Because there's only one. As long as your value is 24, it doesn't matter if it's tier 1 or tier 2. As long as you only have position 1 on either one or on either two. I know you understand what I mean. What puts the tier on the chart is position 1 equals 1. That means one contract for position 1, tier 1. So if you make tier 1 24, then you're okay. So Roz, when we say adjust the tiers, we mean just physically, if you have a tier and it's sitting just above the low, you could physically just move it below the low. And if it's 3, 5 ticks, you don't have to be so exact. If it's a good move, it'll fill and you'll change direction. It may not get there anyway, right? This has not been a huge. Remember, our zone of safety is 24 and 15, 37 ticks. If it's a 50 tick move, then we have a problem. But it hasn't done that in more than a year. All right. Usually I give this report around 40 seconds to fill. You know, usually on a report like this, a reasonably quick fill would be expected if it's going to fill. And then don't forget, if you're trading 2 tiers and it only fills 1, you can cancel the outer tier, right? News is out. So the news is lower than expected. Inflation a tiny bit up. We're not getting a very good move from this. So it hits my first tier. If I get an opportunity to move I'm canceling the outer tier, moving my stop to safety, stretching my target, trailing. I didn't want to get too close. Stretching my target. Maybe we'll get lucky. It'll go test the low. Maybe it'll go test the low. I'm not rushing. I'm leaving my profit where it is. I'm going to go below the VWAP. All right. Maybe we'll get a test of the low. Maybe we'll get a test of the low. No matter what, you should have a profitable trade here, at least 15 ticks. Okay, 16 ticks. It decides to do a burst, little burst up. Nobody should have lost money on this trade. Nobody. Nobody. Perfect 1-tier trap trade. Perfect 1-tier trap trade. You understand why you had to cancel the outer tier? So that your stop and your targets are not in the way of each other. Now, if it goes and tests the low, I'm definitely jumping off a bridge. I'm definitely jumping off a bridge. Let's look at the news. I think the inflation, see, it's going back up. That VWAP, make sure everybody in the room, if you don't have a VWAP, tell me right now. Okay, look at that. Now, maybe we wouldn't have survived, okay? Maybe we wouldn't have survived it, but it's responding to Powell. It's responding to Powell, okay? That's what's going on here. Responding to Powell. I'm not crying in a corner because it went up 43, 9, 10 ticks from where my profit was. I probably would have protected that profit. So I don't think I'm going to cry in a corner because of not getting that low of the day. I think it just changed direction a little bit too much for what I would have allowed. Okay. Your first tier was 19 and it did not hit. Chantal will tell us what the spike is. Now, this is Powell. See, this is Powell, okay? This is not the trade. This is Powell's comments. Now you have nothing to do with the news. This is strictly Powell. It was a 16-tick spike. 16-tick spike. That's why I like that more aggressive first tier. I want to get filled. I don't want to watch a trap trade make a profit without me. Now, if I was willing to give back 15, 14 of those ticks, we could have had the low of the day. I was not willing to do that. I was not willing to do that. Roz, I'm trying to understand why you lost money. I gotta look at the video. I gotta look at the video. How about a roll call? What happened to everybody? Yep, that's what I'm thinking, Chantal. That you got long on the drop, but it's still, yeah, it was a big drop, so it would have stopped you out. It would have stopped you out. But but you might have waited too long to cancel, Roz. You might have waited too long to cancel. That's what I'm thinking, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Langford, you didn't do the trade. Now, it's also not your fault in a way that Powell released his statement a little bit early, and that really made the market volatile also. And definitely read what Chantal is saying, everybody. She is an expert, okay? Chantal is an expert. I want to thank everybody on YouTube. So 10-minute trades, we made money on this trade, 160 bucks, one contract. Many of our members made some money. It looks like a few canceled. A couple of people did not get filled. We had a loss or two. A very honest, transparent trade for all of our free YouTube watchers. Thank you for watching on YouTube, and hit the like button, please, if you will. Hit the notification bell so you know the next time we are streaming for free. We stream every week for free, okay? So thank you, YouTube, and we'll see everybody on